Welcome to EDUC 751D, Organizational Ethics and Decision Making. My name is Mark Vermillion, and I have the honor of teaching this course this particular semester. I'm also the director for the Organizational Leadership and Learning Degree Program, of which this is a part of. I appreciate you joining us for this particular semester, and I just want to take a brief moment to walk through a few basic things within the course. All this information is really going to be posted on the Blackboard shell. But really the point of today is not just being able to walk through some of this, but to let you know that there is actually a living, breathing human being, for better or worse, that sets up the course and kind of walks through it and those types of things. And just because this is an 8-week online course, it's asynchronous, it doesn't mean that we can't have communication. It doesn't mean that you're going to be kind of separated from the educational process. It's a different way of doing education than maybe some of you are accustomed to. Many of you probably had an online course. And here's to hope, and it's in alignment with some of the positive expectations that you have for online learning. So, number one, logistics. What I try to do is, and this is going to be important for you all as you start kind of going through and looking at the Blackboard shell for the course, is I post everything for the course ahead of time. All right, and this is important for me because I want to make sure that you all have the information. Not every single student taking this course is going to have the exact same type of either academic or work or even social schedule. So I want to make sure that all that information is there so you can have that information. You can kind of really create your own time management plan for you for this particular semester and in particular this class. The other thing that's really important in terms of the logistics, obviously, is thinking about the syllabus. It's something that every teacher or professor really asks you to do. One of the things that I will say that's interesting about the syllabus is not only does it really help to outline the expectations for this particular class, so you're going to have your due dates for your different assignments and assessments, quizzes, projects, those types of things. It's also going to have a lot of really helpful and informative information, hyperlinks, those types of things from the university. Right, there are a lot of resources contained within a syllabus. So please make sure that you, as you're going through and surfing and getting familiar with the Blackboard shell, that you're able to click on the syllabus and kind of walk through everything that's in there. I do put at the end, there is a schedule that's actually broken out and dropped on the Blackboard shell as well. But there is kind of a semester schedule. You do have deadlines. There are things that we expect that you're going to be doing in regards to this class and the educational process. So working on different modules, completing different things, so on and so forth. So all that information is going to be listed there. Now, in regards to the rationale for the course, one of the things that I think is really interesting is when you talk to employers or you talk to policymakers or you talk to educators, people, excuse me, that are going to be associated with a position of authority, one of the things that they often talk about is this idea of decision making, right? And how to make it's a buzz phrase that we talk a lot about, data driven or data informed decision making, those types of things. Well, decision making is an action, it's a process, and it does not happen in a social vacuum. It's going to take into consideration all the different things that are going on. And I like to connect that decision making process with an understanding of ethics so that we really have kind of an anchor, if you will, in terms of how we make decisions, why we make decisions, how are these decisions perpetuated year after year after year, whether it's good or bad. And that's really what we want to dive into. And I know I've had a lot of experience, a lot of formal academic training in philosophy and ethics and things like that. And so I know a lot of folks are somewhat intimidated or they feel somewhat divorced from the idea of the content of what it means to engage in ethical inquiry. And we don't necessarily want to do that. We do need to, dot some I's and cross some T's in regards to learning a vocabulary that's going to be associated with ethics. But ethics really is it's going to be a framework for us. It's going to be a way for looking at, understanding, and viewing different things. It's not necessarily going to be, at least for our purposes, it's not necessarily going to be thinking completely in the abstraction. Now, there's a time and place for that. However, in this particular course, what we really want to focus on is almost like applied ethics, right? And that's where the organizational part comes into play, is that many of you are going to be leaders, regardless of the position that you hold within an organization or an organizational setting. And so it's going to be incumbent upon you to have a discussion internally. And then at some point, with your organizational colleagues in regards to what are we doing? How are we doing? How do we make decisions? Why do we make decisions? You know, it's not just about making sure that we don't get the human resources department involved and things like that. What are the ethical motives, if you will? And that's really kind of what we're trying to do here with the rationale is, you know, we talk about ethics, it's going to be a framework, it's going to be a discipline, if you will, right? And we want to connect that, we want to humanize it, we want to bring it to life through, you know, everyday real world settings. And that's where the decision-making part comes in. So one of the things you're going to be doing is you're going to be evaluating examples of good and bad ethics from organizations over the years. And that really kind of just ties in with this philosophy of being able to develop your own leadership philosophy, but then also being able to sort of communicate that and bring it to bear in the organizational environment. And the last thing, and this is also going to be covered on an overview podcast that's posted on the Blackboard Shell, but really what we're trying to do is we're trying to develop some knowledge here, right? And I talk about in that Plato said that, you know, knowledge is going to be the intersection of truth and belief. And in that intersection, that's when these things come to life. And that's when you really start to not just develop knowledge, but really deepen that reservoir of knowledge you can draw from as you have to kind of work in the day-to-day organizational environment. And part of that whole process of knowledge development is this phrase, right? Critical thinking. Now, critical thinking for us does not actually mean, being negative, right? For us, it's really about looking at things on an in-depth level. And that's an important skill. And sometimes it's not a skill that comes naturally to a lot of folks. It's something that has to be honed, it has to be trained. Right, let's say you have maybe a natural inclination and predilection to be, you know, in terms of hand-eye coordination. So you could be, you know, very productive member in the world of athletics or something like that. Well, unless you hone that skill, that sort of natural inclination or predisposition will only take you so far. And so critical thinking, like anything else, is about repetitions, right? It's about understanding the process. And what we try to do in this particular course is we take the process, we talk about it, we evaluate it, we understand it, but really what we want to do is make that process come to life through these real world examples that we're able to plug in. And one of the most important things about critical thinking, it starts with you. And it starts with you in terms of being able to apply your personal experiences, your lived experiences, whether it's personally in a past organization or in your current organization. It's being able to bring those experiences and those stories to bear and starting to look at and understand the organizational environment on an in-depth level. That's really what we're trying to do in this particular course. Okay, that you do have content, you do, like I said previously, you do have bureaucratic educational requirements that you have to do. So you're going to have some assignments. Now, one of the things that we try to do with the assignments is we try to make sure that they can provide you something, either content or a credential or something like that. So at the end of the course, you haven't just gone through a bunch of dry, bland assignments and you kind of check that box and move on, because we don't want to just memorize, regurgitate, and move on. You're going to get out of this class what you invest in it. And I hope you're going to invest, because this is really what we're trying to build. Right? Those critical thinking skills that are going to transcend the organizational environment, and they're going to be crucial to whatever organization that you're a part of. It's going to be crucial to that organization to have individuals, colleagues that are able to, discuss and partner and collaborate and really bring to bear these critical thinking skills, because people are complex, right? We know that. A lot of complex emotions, different, unique personal experiences. So people are complicated. We know organizations are complicated in of themselves, right? Think about all the different layers within, something even like Wichita State in the higher educational environment, all the different departments and colleges and units and this and that, right? So very, very complicated. Well, problems that are associated with people and organizations, they're going to be inherently complicated, right? I don't know why we would assume that these two complicated things, when there's a problem that intersects with both of them, that the problem and therefore the solution is then going to be very, very easy to solve, right? They're going to be complex. And that's really what critical thinking is about. It's not necessarily about, harping on the negative. It's really about actually trying to do things looking at an in-depth way to change or address things within the organizational environment so we can actually increase the positivity, whether it's productivity, whether it's collegiality amongst individuals that work there, it doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, that's kind of the philosophy, that's sort of the rationale, if you will, for me in terms of how I try to put this class together and hopefully what purpose it's going to serve for you. As we start matriculating our way through this semester, please make sure if you have any questions, like I said, just because this is an asynchronous online class does not necessarily mean that we have to be devoid of communication. That really was, again, like I said earlier, that's the purpose of this, to show you that there is a human being behind all of this. And that human being is actually here. Like, my job is to support your educational journey, or however you want to think of it, right? Whether it's in this class, in the major, if you're taking this class, whether as a graduate student or an undergraduate student, that's kind of what our job, that's what our purpose is to really kind of support you through that process. So if you have any questions about that process, then please feel free to reach out to me. If it's a question about the larger university, that I may or may not know the answer. If I don't, then hopefully I can get you in contact with those people that can answer your question. But that's kind of what we're going to do. Please make sure you have a positive and productive semester. If there's anything I can do, please feel free to reach out. Have a wonderful semester.